So, today we're going to talk about a single life-altering decision that literally millions of high school students in Vietnam face every single year. It's a choice that can shape their entire future, their happiness, their financial security, everything. It's a really tough one, so let's break down this impossible choice.
But first, just take a second. Think back to when you were, say, 17 or 18. What was the biggest, most stressful decision you had to make? Maybe it was about where to live or who to date. Whatever it was, I bet it felt absolutely massive at the time.
Well, for high schoolers in Vietnam, all that pressure gets focused on one single critical question. Do I go to university or do I get a job right now? And this isn't some far-off idea. It's a real immediate choice that they have to make the second they graduate.
And what's really fascinating here is just how evenly the path splits. According to Vietnam's People's Army newspaper, about half of all graduating students go on to university. And the other half, they head straight into the workforce. I mean, it's a perfect 50-50 split, a true fork of the road for an entire generation. And, okay, let's say you do pick the university path. Well, the decisions just get harder, with huge financial consequences. A 2020 study found that choosing a humanities major could get you a higher potential salary, but it's a total gamble. You could be making anywhere from 2.6 million to 14.4 million VND a month. But a major in education, that's a much more stable, predictable income. So you've got a high-risk, high-reward path on one side and a much safer bet on the other. How is a teenager supposed to figure that out?
So this leads us to the consequences. Because when a choice is this big, the stakes are incredibly high. And if that decision goes wrong, the fallout isn't just some small bump in the road. It affects individuals, their families, and honestly, the entire national economy. The pressure really starts building with this one thing: the National High School Graduation Exam. It's the only test that decides who gets into Vietnam's good, affordable public universities. The stress from this is so intense that it completely takes over students' final years, and tragically has even been linked to student suicides. So, with all that pressure to get into the right program, you'd think the system would be set up to make sure students make good choices, right? Well, the reality is staggering. Some reports say that as many as 60% of Vietnamese university grads end up working in a field that has nothing to do with their degree. Let that sink in for a second. 60%. And this mismatch, it has a direct, painful cost. On average, graduates who are working a job that doesn't fit their degree earn 9% less than their classmates who found a relevant job. And while that gap might shrink over the years, that's a huge financial hit right at the start of your career. But the problem doesn't stop there. It creates this ripple effect across all of society. For the person, yeah, it's wasted time, money, and just not being happy with your career. But for the country, it means a shortage of skilled workers, wasted money on education for students who drop out, and even higher unemployment. It's a massive drain on the whole system. And beyond all the economics, there's a profound human cost. All of this academic and career pressure is fueling a serious mental health crisis. Studies are showing that almost 32% of adolescents in Vietnam are dealing with depression. That's a rate way higher than in nearby countries like India or Bangladesh. The stress is just taking a massive toll. Okay, so if the stakes are this high, what is going on with the system that's supposed to help? To really get that, you got to listen to the students themselves. They have a very, very clear idea of why the career guidance they're getting is failing them. You really don't have to guess how they feel about the current system. Just listen to this quote from a university student in a recent study. They said, "The career guidance sessions aren't just bad, they're not effective and have almost no impact." That's a pretty brutal review. So, what are they actually getting in these so-called guidance sessions? Well, it's pretty much a university marketing packet. They get lists of courses, tuition fees, how to apply. In other words, they're getting a sales pitch, not actual guidance. And that is completely different from what they're actually asking for. They don't want a course catalog. They want to know what a job is really like. What do you do day to day? What's the career path look like down the road? What skills do you actually need to be good at it? They want a real, honest look inside an industry. So what happens when there's this huge information vacuum? Well, it's predictable, and it's pretty dangerous. Without real guidance, students just end up chasing whatever job is trending in the news, or they just listen to whatever other people say, their parents, their friends,
without ever forming an informed opinion for themselves. Okay, so that brings us to the solution. And here's the good news. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. If we just listen to what students are asking for, we can build a much, much better path forward and totally rethink what career guidance is supposed to be. Let's start with a really basic definition. Real career guidance, it isn't about telling people what to do. It's a process of helping them figure out their own resources, their skills, their interests, their values, so that they can make their own decisions. It's all about empowerment. And you know who gets this? The students themselves. They totally understand the first step. As one of them put it perfectly, this journey doesn't start with looking at job listings. It starts with knowing yourself. You have to understand who you are before you can possibly figure out what career is right for you. And what's wild is that this isn't some new, radical idea. The blueprint for how to solve this is actually over a century old. Back in 1909, a guy named Frank Parsons laid out this super simple 3-step plan that's just as true today. First, know yourself. Second, understand the world of work. And third, use clear thinking to connect the two. That's it. Know yourself, know the jobs, and then find the match. So to nail that second step, understanding the jobs, students want to hear from all sorts of people with real-world experience. Not just one counselor, but industry experts, HR pros, university teachers, and especially current university students and people who are actually doing the job today. They want the full 360-degree view, not some narrow sales pitch. At the end of the day, what this all comes down to is something way more profound than just economics or job statistics. As one student in the study powerfully put it, quoting Confucius, this is really about the search for a fulfilling life. The question isn't just, what job will I get? It's, what kind of life do I want to live? And getting that right? Well, that's a choice worth preparing for.